The sun blazed over the quaint town, casting a golden glow on St. Luke's Church, its steeple piercing the cloudless sky. The bells tolled their chimes, rippling through the streets, summoning worshippers to the Sunday service inside. The air was thick with warmth. Pews packed with familiar faces and a few newcomers all settling into the comforting rhythm of ritual. The choir, a modest group at the front, warmed up under the direction of Mrs. Evelyn Harper, their voices blending in a vibrant hymn meant to ignite the spirit. The organist, Mr. Clarence Weaver, poured his soul into the keys, the organ's rich tones flooding the sanctuary, lifting hearts toward worship. But as the choir hit the chorus, a shrill voice sliced through the harmony like a blade, halting the music and shattering the peace. "This is outrageous!" It screeched, echoing off the stained glass windows. All eyes snapped to the church's rear, where Deborah Langley stood, arms crossed, face twisted in fury, a sporadic attendee known for her sharp tongue. Deborah's glare could have burned holes through the hymnals. "This isn't a party, it's worship. You're singing like it's a circus." The choir stumbled notes, faltering as they exchanged bewildered glances. Evelyn, a pillar of poise, froze, her raised hands trembling. "Deborah, this hymn celebrates our faith's joy," she said, voice soft but strained. "It's meant to uplift us." Deborah wasn't listening. Her rage surged, propelling her down the aisle, heels clacking like gunfire. "Now this is too loud, too fast. Worship should be solemn, not some rock concert." The congregation shifted uneasily, whispers rustling like leaves. Pastor Samuel Bennett Midsmon at the pulpit paused, his gentle cadence broken by the commotion. His eyes, usually warm, narrowed as Deborah's tirade grew louder, her finger jabbing at the choir. "I've been here for years, and this is a disgrace. Slow it down, make it reverent, or stop this nonsense." Samuel raised a hand, his voice cutting through the chaos with quiet authority. "Deborah, this is not the time for disruption. The choir's music is part of our worship, and they deserve respect." Deborah's face reened, but Samuel pressed on, his tone unyielding. "If you can't join us in the spirit of praise, I must ask you to leave. We're here for peace, not conflict." The sanctuary fell silent, the weight of his words hanging heavy. Deborah scanned the room, seeking alleys, but found only averted gazes and tight lips. The choir, her target, stood, shaken their joy, doused by her venom. Evelyn's eyes glistened, but she held her ground, refusing to let Deborah's wrath silence her singers. The congregation, some clutching hymnals, others staring at. Their shoes radiated discomfort. No one backed Deborah's crusade. Her defiance flickered, then flared. "You're all wrong!" she spat, but her voice cracked, betraying her isolation. Samuel's gaze didn't waver. "Deborah, please leave, or we'll have to escort you out." Her mouth opened, words failing her. With a final furious glare at the choir, she spun on, her heel storming out the E. Dollar Slamedits echo a gunshot in the stillness. For a moment, no one moved. The choir stood rigid, unsure if they should sing again. The congregation sat stunned, processing the upheaval. Samuel cleared his throat, a soft smile breaking the tension. "Let's continue our worship," he said, voice warm. "We're here to praise, and we won't let discord stop us." Evelyn nodded, rallying her singers. Clarence struck the organ, and the choir resumed their voice, tentative but growing stronger, reclaiming the hymn's joy. The congregation joined, their song rising, a defiant reclaiming of peace. Deborah's outburst lingered like a shadow as Samuel resumed his sermon. His words on unity and grace carried new weight. "Worship isn't about one voice dominating," he said, eyes sweeping the pews. "It's about lifting each other up even when we disagree." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room, some nodding, others exchanging glances, some apologetic, some resolute. The choirs next to him, slower and solemn, seemed to answer Deborah's demand, yet it held a quiet strength, proving worship could be both reverent and vibrant. The congregation sang with renewed purpose, their voices weaving a tapestry of faith that Deborah's anger couldn't unravel. Outside, Deborah stood by her car, chest heaving, glaring at the church as if her fury could topple its steeple. She'd come seeking solace, but the choir's exuberance had grated on her, clashing with her rigid vision of worship. To her, joy in church was frivolous, a betrayal of reverence. She'd expected nods of agreement, allies among the older congregants who shared her taste for somber hymns. Instead, she'd found silence, her outburst exposing her as the disruptor, not the savior. The sting of rejection fueled her resolve. This wasn't over. She'd make them see the error of their ways, prove her vision of worship was right. Inside, the service flowed on, but whispers buzzed in the pews. Some felt Samuel's response was too harsh, wondering if Deborah's frustration deserved more patience. Others saw her as a bully, her demands an attempt to hijack a sacred space. A few sympathized, sensing her anger stemmed from personal pain, but agreed her delivery was inexcusable. The debate simmered, threatening to fracture the unity Samuel preached. Yet, as the final hymn swelled its gentle melody, soothing raw nerves, the congregation stood there in men, a unified vow to move forward as worshippers spilled into the sunlight. The air felt lighter, but the morning's clash lingered. Samuel lingered at the pulpit, watching his flock disperse, his smile tinged with fatigue. He'd faced disruptions before, crying, babies, heated debates, but Deborah's public attack on the choir felt personal, a challenge to the church's soul. Evelyn gathered her singers, offering quiet encouragement.
You sang with heart,
For she said, voice steady despite her own shaken nerves, that's what matters. The choir nodded, some teary, others resolute, their bond tightened by the ordeal. Elliot Carter, a quiet guitarist who'd joined the congregation months ago, hesitated at the exit. He'd watched the drama unfold from the back. His usual retreat after services delayed by a strange pull to stay Deborah's rage had rattled him, reminding him of past conflicts he'd fled. Yet Samuel's calm, the choir's resilience, and the congregation's unity stirred something in his sense of belonging he hadn't felt in years. As he lingered, Evelyn approached him, nil in hand. Elliot, thank you, she said, eyes kind. Your calm presence helped us through that storm. He blinked, surprised. I didn't do anything. Evelyn smiled. Sometimes just being steady in chaos is enough. You're part of this family. Her words hit deep, easing a knot in his chest. Thanks, he murmured, gripping his guitar case. That means a lot. Evelyn rejoined her choir, and Elliot stepped outside the evening sky, a canvas of purples and golds. He paused, glancing back at the church, its warmth lingering in his bones. Deborah's exit had been a spectacle, but it hadn't broken the spirit within those walls. The service, though shaken, had reaffirmed what St. Luke's stood for, a place where faith, music, and community could withstand even the loudest storms. Samuel's handling of the crisis, firm, yet compassionate, had set a tone that resonated. Worship wasn't about rigid rules or one person's vision, but about shared grace. Even in discord, days later, rumors swirled Deborah hadn't returned, but she'd emailed the church board demanding an apology for her humiliation and a ban on frivolous hymns. The board, by Samuel, declined, suggesting she meet privately to discuss her concerns. She refused, instead rallying a few sympathizers to push for stricter music guidelines. The move sparked heated debates. At coffee shops and porches, some argued Deborah had a point, worship should be solemn. Others called her a control freak. Her outburst proof she cared more about power than faith. The controversy divided neighbors, threatening the church's harmony. Yet Sunday, services grew fuller, drawn by the drama and Samuel's steady leadership. The choir sang bolder, their joy, a quiet rebellion against Deborah's demand. Elliot, once a silent observer, joined the choir, his guitar adding a new layer to their hymns. At the next service, as they sang a vibrant tune, he glanced at the back, half expecting Deborah to barge in the door. Stage shut, the congregation sang louder, their voices a testament to silence. Outside, the bells tolled, echoing over elm and pine, a call to worship that no outburst could silence. Deborah's storm had passed, but the church stood stronger, its heart beating in every note, every prayer, every act of grace. Elliot walked home under the stars, guitar slung over his shoulder, feeling not just present, but rooted. The road ahead was uncertain, but he'd dealt with interruptions before, crying babies and heated arguments, but Deborah's public attack on the choir felt personal, like a challenge to the church's heart. Evelyn gathered her singers, giving them quiet encouragement. You sang with your heart, she said, her voice steady even though her own nerves were shaken. That's what matters. The choir nodded, some with tears and others determined, their friendship made stronger by the scary experience. Elliot Carter, a quiet guitar player who'd joined the church a few months ago, stopped at the exit. He'd watched the drama happen from the back, his usual quick exit after services, stopped by a strange feeling to stay. Deborah's anger had shaken him, reminding him of past fights he'd run away from. But Samuel's calmness, the choir's strength, and the church people's togetherness stirred something in him, a feeling of belonging he hadn't felt in years. As he waited around, Evelyn walked up to him with a songbook in hand. "Elliot, thank you," she said with kind eyes. "Your calm presence helped us get through that storm." He blinked, surprised. "I didn't do anything." Evelyn smiled. "Sometimes, just being steady when everything's crazy is enough. You're part of this family." Her words hit him deep, healing a hurt in his heart. "Thanks," he said quietly, holding his guitar case. "That means a lot." Evelyn went back to her choir and Elliot walked outside. The evening sky looked like a painting of purples and golds. He stopped, looking back at the church, its warmth still feeling good in his bones. Deborah's exit had been a big show, but it hadn't broken the good feeling inside those walls. The service, even though it was shaken, had proved again what St. Luke stood for, a place where faith, music, and community could survive even the loudest storms. Samuel's way of handling the crisis, firm but caring, had set a feeling that everyone understood. Worship wasn't about strict rules or one person's idea, but about shared kindness even when there was fighting. Days later, rumors spread everywhere. Deborah hadn't come back, but she'd sent an email to the church leaders demanding an apology for her embarrassment and a ban on silly songs. The leaders, with Samuel in charge, said no, suggesting she meet privately to talk about her worries. She refused, instead getting a few people who agreed with her to push for stricter music rules. The move started heated arguments at coffee shops and on porches. Some people said Deborah had a point. Worship should be serious. Others called her a control freak, her outburst proving she cared more about power than faith. The controversy split neighbors apart, threatening the church's peace. But Sunday services got more crowded, people coming because of the drama and Samuel's steady leadership. The choir sang bolder, their joy a quiet fight against Deborah's demands. Elliot, who used to just watch quietly, joined the choir, his guitar, adding a new sound to their songs. At the next service, as they sang a happy tune, he looked at the back, half expecting Deborah to burst in. The door stayed closed. The people sang louder, their voices showing how strong they were. Outside, the bells rang out, echoing over elm and pine trees, a call to worship that no outburst could quiet. Deborah's storm had passed, but the church stood stronger, its heart beating in every note, every prayer, every act of kindness. Elliot walked home under the stars, guitar hanging over his shoulder, feeling not just there but like he really belonged. The road ahead wasn't certain, but St. Mao